We know that in the year of Tovshin Chavhei, the year of Avelis that the Rebbe had after his mother, the Rebbe would every Farbrengen explain the first and the last Rashi of the Parsha. Then after Tovshin Chavhei, the Rebbe stopped, but then Mr. Waldman was a person, was like a kocht stark in the Rashis, wrote to the Rebbe that the Rebbe should continue. So from Parsha Shmois, Tovshin Chavov, the Rebbe continued and started explaining every Farbrengen, every Shabbos Farbrengen, a Rashi. At one point, the Seder became that the Rebbe would be Meidia the Rashi before, because Mr. Waldman asked the Rebbe that it's kedai that we should know which Rashi is going to speak about, so people could prepare to look up the Mefarshim, etc. So sometimes the Seder was that he would write into the Rebbe before Shabbos what Rashi it will be, and the Rebbe would answer on that settle. But then became the Seder that the Rebbe Shabbos morning, before davening, he would tell him which Rashi. That means that he would stand by the Rebbe's door at the time when the Rebbe would come from his house to 770 before davening, and as the Rebbe would come, before he'd walk into his room, he would tell him which Rashi it's going to be. Actually, sometimes this was the simon that it'll be a Farbrengen, because certain Shabbosim wasn't sure if it'll be a Farbrengen or not, so the Rebbe would come, and if he told him which Rashi it's going to be, we knew it'll be a Farbrengen. And then the Seder was that as soon as the Rebbe told this to Mr. Waldman, somebody would run downstairs and tell Reb Zalma Duchman that the Rebbe gave over that the Rashi today will be so-and-so. And then when the Rebbe came into daven, while the Rebbe was walking into his place, he would make an announcement that today there'll be a Farbrengen and the Rashi is going to be so-and-so. Shabbos Parshas Vayikra, Tovshin Chof Tes, the Rebbe came from his house and did not say a Rashi, because the Rebbe didn't plan to Farbreng, but maybe there was no Rashi. There was a bocher who made a joke to another bocher, and he told him that the Rebbe said that today will be the Rashi Vayikra Beis Hey. The second bocher didn't know any chachmas, didn't know anything. He ran downstairs, told Reb Zalman Duchman that the Rebbe said that today will be Farbrengen, the Rashi will be Beis Hey. So as the Rebbe came into daven, Reb Zalman Duchman made the announcements that Hein to Farbrengen and the Rashi is going to be Beis Hey. When the Rebbe heard this, the Rebbe got very upset. The Rebbe turned around and he said, Wer hat's gesagt? Who said this? So they said, a bocher said this. So the Rebbe said, where's the bocher? The Rebbe was standing by his place. The bocher, the second bocher, was downstairs and walked over to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe asked him, who told you this? So he said, another bocher. So the Rebbe let the other bocher come. And you saw the Rebbe was very, very upset. At one of the point, the Rebbe even walked away from the stender, walked over to the end of the carpet, closer towards the people. They went looking for that bocher. The bocher was nowhere to be found, because as soon as the bocher heard that downstairs they made this announcement, he knew it's not Poshet, obviously. He ran into hiding, he ran away. So they couldn't find him. And the Rebbe said, we're not going to start davening till this bocher will come. And the Rebbe was standing facing the Olam, waiting, but they couldn't find him. So finally the Rebbe turned around and made a simon that they should start davening. And they started davening. And you can imagine what kind of tumult this made. Such a thing should happen, that announce a Rashi that the Rebbe didn't say in front of the Rebbe, this is something so terrible. And that got the Rebbe very, very upset. Next Shabbos was Shabbos Parshas Tzav, Shabbos HaGodel. There was a Farbrengen. After the Maimer Ken Sicha, the Rebbe started saying that before he's going to go into Rashi, like he always did after the Maimer, he would explain Rashi. He said, I want to talk about what happened last week. And he said this, what happened is, I'm not going to say over all the details from what he said, because you could look in the Hanochas, you'll find it, but just the points of it, just a few of the points. And the Rebbe said that this is similar to what the Gemara says, B'negei Sukkos, that if it rains on Sukkos, it's similar to a servant, an Eved, that poured wine for his master, for the king, and he pours it back into his face. And the Rebbe used this as a mashal for what happened here. And the Rebbe said this was taki by mistake, no one meant any harm, but nevertheless, this is what happened. And the Rebbe said that really there was no reason to get upset about this. And he quoted what it says in the Geras HaKodesh, that if something bad happens to a person, don't be angry at the person who did it to you, because it was min hashamayim that it should happen to you. The fact that that person has to be punished is because he chose to do something wrong. But as far as the person who got it happened to him, has no reason to be angry, because Harbe Shluchel HaMokim, the Eibishter would have done it some other way. B'meila, there was no reason to be angry. And the Rebbe said, actually, for that Shabbos Parshas Vayikro, a new Likud of Likutei Sichas came out, even though it was a year when there were no Likutim, but certain Shabbosim, the Rebbe was Magia Nu Sichas. And the Likud for that Shabbos spoke about this inyan. Spoke about this Ageras HaKedesh, where the Alter Rebbe says that the Nizik, the one that got the damage, should not be angry at the person who did it to him, because it would have happened anyway, because this is what Eibishter wanted. And the Rebbe said that it was the Likud, the Sicha that from last week. And he said, I learned the Sicha once, I learned it twice, and I even had Hanoah from the Inyanim that's in the Likud. So there was no reason really to get upset. And the Rebbe went on to more details about this whole Inyan. And the bottom line that the Rebbe said was that Lepel, since it happened, it's a Simon min Hashamayim. B'chal, this whole Inyan that they shall announce which Rashi will be, is not something that he saw by the Rabbeim. This is something that more by the Litvish Rosh Hashivas, before a drosha, you give Mara Mekemis, like Shabbos HaGodel, people should prepare, but by the Rabbeim, it wasn't done. The whole union of learning Rashi is a Chidush, but to announce it is certainly a Chidush. So to stop teaching the Rashi is that he's not going to do. But to him, it's a siman that from now on, he should stop announcing before which Rashi is going to be. The truth is that later on, Mr. Waldman wrote to the Rebbe and asked him to start again, and the Rebbe started again announcing before. But Lepel, this Shabbos, the Rebbe said that from now on, the meantime, he's going to stop announcing the Rashas. And there were many, many more details that the Rebbe said. And afterwards, he said that since Bashgocha Protis Lepel, they made this announcement that the Rasha will be Beis Hey. I don't know if I wasn't Tzachonget Shabbat in this Rasha. I don't know why they started up with this Rasha, but Lepel, they announced this Rasha, it's Hashgocha Protis, so the Rebbe went on and explained the Rasha in Vayikro Beis Hey. So this whole thing, which was a negative thing, turned out to be that because of that, we gained the Rebbe Sebir in another Rashi.